Hi, Jeremy Crow here. In this video, I'm actually going to be answering a question that was asked on Twitter. I put out the request to see if anybody wanted to have me cover a certain topic or talk about a certain topic on this week's video. And I didn't get too many replies, but Joanna DeVoe, who actually has her own a vlog on YouTube and a website that she goes by, Kick-Ass Witch. She actually tweeted back and asked if I would describe my approach to magic, the why and the how. And so I think one of the more distinctive aspects about my personal occult practice is that I don't do ritualized ceremony on a daily basis as the foundation of my practice. Now, I did in the past, when in the early stages of my occult practice, when I devoted myself to the occult, then I did a lot of daily ritual, like I probably have done the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram or the LBRP hundreds of times, because there were periods of time where I was doing it sometimes more than once a day for various purposes, but on a daily basis for long periods of time. I don't do that anymore. Now, I will sometimes do ceremonial work on a daily basis for a period of time for a specific purpose, but that's more referred to, if you use the words properly, that's more of a working, a ceremonial working. A ritual is more of the kind of thing where you're doing it every single day for a long period of time, as your basic kind of ritual, almost like getting up and showering, or eating breakfast is a ritual. That you have certain ceremonies that are part of your daily ritual. I don't really do that. I do specific workings, ceremonial workings here and there. For specific purposes. I don't really feel that the daily ritual is the best use of my time, especially because I have a family. I've got a wife and a young son, and I want to devote a lot of energy to them and give them the time that they deserve. And so, basically my practice is based roughly around the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So at the very basic level, that's a survival level. So you got to make sure that your survival needs are taken care of. These involve keeping your body healthy. So this involves working out, regular exercise, eating properly, and any kind of supplementation that you feel that is going to be beneficial for you. Also, you have to make sure that you have a shelter and access to clean water and these types of basic survival needs, and that often involves having a job. So that takes a certain amount of time out of your day. And then of course you have to spend time with your family. There's different levels on this hierarchy, and as you get these fundamental levels taken care of, then you can start to devote time and energy to occult work. And you might find that these other things are getting more and more, taking more and more of your time and responsibility, so you have to really focus on how you're going to use your time. And I found that doing daily ritual is it's fun, and if I was, a single guy, I'd probably be doing a lot more of it, but I don't find it to be the most effective occult practice that I could be doing with that time. I find that, I'll go into some of the ones that I do find very effective and very powerful in achieving the goals that I'm interested in achieving. So now that's the other thing, is that you have to make sure that if you have certain goals in mind, then you have to figure out what practices are going to be the most effective at getting you to achieve that goal. You're trying to get from point A to point B. and you got to be effective. We only have a certain amount of time here on this planet, in our current forms, with the physical body, then to achieve our goals, and we don't know how much time that is. So you have to be really effective if you're trying to achieve some things. And now, if you don't have specific goals, you just want to have a fun ride and a fun journey. That's another type of goal, right? And I think that in that case, it would almost be more like you're cruising rather than trying to get from point A to point B. I think that we should have a bit of a balance. We should definitely try and enjoy the journey, but also there are sometimes you have to go through some things that are difficult or challenging in order to achieve something specific, and I think that there's value in that as well. So a lot of my practice, as you might have to from this, is that is about achieving things, trying to accomplish certain goals and such. Some of these are more ephemeral goals, such as greater personal integrity within my psyche, and stuff like they're not necessarily concrete. Other ones are a lot more concrete, like I want to put out some of my thoughts and experiences and insights into books and publish them, so that's something that has a physical artifact that you're creating. So that colors how I approach my occult work. So my occult work often involves mental discipline, practicing training mental discipline in a couple different ways. That could involve concentration. So that's where you pick an object, or it could just be your visual field or your breath. It could be a circle on a card. It could be the Tibetan letter A. There are a couple different things that you could use as that object of focus. It doesn't really matter for this practice. A circle is something pretty simple and is probably one of the better ways to start. But you can go into different, more elaborate things or more abstract things. What you're doing is, with concentration, you are just focusing on the awareness of that thing. You're not interpreting it. You're not thinking about it. You're not reminiscing about this object or what it means. You are just aware that it exists. You're just conscious of its existence. And if you find your mind starting to interpret it or starting to think about anything else, you just gently bring your attention back to where you had set your intention to focus on. And it's just a practice being able to keep your focus on a singular thing for extended periods of time. And that trains your mental discipline. There's another one that's similar, that's contemplation. And this one is kind of the opposite. It's where you're focusing on an object, let's say the symbol of let's say Mercury or Jupiter. So you've got this symbol and you are looking at it, and you're allowing yourself to go on this chain of thought where one thought leads to another, and you're allowing yourself to go along this chain of thoughts related to that object. But if you find that you get off on a tangent where it's not related to that initial thing anymore, like say, oh, that reminds me, I have to, get this at the grocery store or whatever. That's a tangent that, might be interesting, but you want to get back to the main branch. And you may later find that it was associated with that initial, but still you want to get back to the main thread, the main current that you want to get through. And so you follow that tangent back through its own little chain back to the main trunk of the tree, of the chain of thought that you're creating. and then continue on from there again. And that trains your mind to think in a certain way as well, to be able to keep your train of thought for longer periods of time. And if you do go on a tangent, to be able to follow it back to the initial point. And that type of mental discipline is useful in other ways as well. Both of these things are referred to as meditation by some people, by different people. So the word meditation really can mean a lot of different things depending on who you are and what you were taught. Another form of mental discipline that I find useful is what I typically refer to as self-hypnosis. And this is being able to go into the different, practicing going into the different brainwave states, essentially. Science is, you can even measure this within like a electroencephalograph, I think it's called, where you put it on your head, an EEG, and it measures your brain waves, and it can say, well, you've got a predominance of this particular frequency range of brain waves, so you're probably experiencing this state of consciousness. And you can alter that through various practices. And so that's another mental discipline, to be able to shift yourself into these different states. So your base normal state when you're active and aware and awake, that's the beta state, they call it. And you can easily shift yourself into the alpha state, which is a light trance state. And you can usually do this just by relaxing your body, stuff like that. But there are deeper levels. There's like a delta and theta as well. Now, any of these terms that you may not understand, you can definitely go and do your own research on this. I may have explained it in other videos, but obviously there's a whole internet out there. Check it out if you're interested and find out more information about these things that I'm talking about. I can't explain each of these individual practices. I'm just kind of trying to list them all and give you a bit of an idea of what I'm talking about when I say these things. Now, sigil work is another thing you can do. You can take your intention, a specific intention that you want to achieve something, and sigilize it. So turn that intention into a symbol that represents that intention in some way. And there's various different ways you can create these sigils. Once they're created, you can use that to, you can enter into an altered state of consciousness, and then where you're more susceptible to suggestion, or you have much improved powers of imagination, you could say, your creative powers are a lot more enhanced during certain altered states, then you kind of fire off, some people will say, that sigil into your subconscious mind, or just impress your own mind with that sigil when you're in an altered state. Another way you can do this is, people call these altered states that you use to send off or incept your sigil into yourself, is Gnosis. Some people call it a state of Gnosis. And you can achieve that through, the self-hypnosis stuff is what they would call an inhibitory Gnosis, where you're, dulling your external senses and you're going further inside. But there's also excitatory Gnosis, where you can do this through ecstatic dance. You can do this through getting a runner's high and using that state as an altered state. You can use sex, whether with a partner, whether alone, with multiple partners at once, whatever you are interested in. You can use that state, that sexual stimulated state, as your Gnosis state, especially if you utilize, a lot of times people will say you can utilize the point of orgasm as you're firing off of the sigil. You can use pain. Some people will use carefully, They have to study how to do this properly without damaging themselves. But you can use pain as a form of excitatory gnosis, of getting into that altered state. Some people will do like if they're getting a piercing or something like that, or they'll get a tattoo, and that can tie into the whole using pain as a gnosis state. So there are a lot of really powerful ways of doing things that don't involve ritual work. Now, lucid dreaming and astral projection, this is one of the major ones that I'm into, and I feel that is probably, if I had to pick one thing out of all of the occult practices out there, I would pick lucid dreaming and astral projection, which I think is part of it's the same state. It's just two different methods of getting into that state. If I had to pick one, that would be the one. And the other thing about that is that for lucid dreaming, the lucid dreaming aspect of it, you're utilizing extra time. So time spent in dreams that normally would have gone by in a semi-conscious, zombie-like automatic response, state, that often you just forget anyway. It doesn't, you're reclaiming that time to do occult practices, essentially. And you have to do stuff during the day, but it's stuff usually that you do while you're doing other things. So you can just be, waiting in line somewhere and question yourself on whether or not you are awake or in a dream at that point. And you have to sincerely do this state testing on a regular basis, but you can just do it while you're doing everything. That's the most effective way of doing it, in fact, is to do it while you're out doing other things. And then that activates, in a sense, these dreams so that you can be conscious during them. And then you can do all kinds of things, and you don't even need to do ritual during a lucid dream in order to perform like manifestation magic and stuff. You just do it. It cuts out a lot of stuff. Like ritual is really kind of, in a sense, some people refer to it as a way of kind of. I think of it as a way of getting yourself into those altered states and kind of programming your mind with these symbolic references, and you're priming yourself, in a sense. If you know what that word means, in like neuro-linguistic programming or like conversational hypnosis or things like that. So a lot of this stuff you're using to get an edge, for me anyways, using this stuff to get an edge in the more mundane stuff that you're already doing to achieve your goals. And like I said, sometimes your goals are a lot more ethereal and require more subtle methods, and you're not going to be doing a lot of stuff like on the mundane plane to achieve those, but everything is all related. I try and approach things holistically, the whole body, whole mind, whole emotion, everything works together, and you're trying to achieve something. And you can use occult methods or lesser known esoteric techniques to get an edge in achieving these goals. And that is my approach to occultism. And the how are some of the things that I was just talking about. So hopefully that answers your question, Joanna. We can have a longer discussion about, get more in depth, dig into it if you'd like. But that's the basic, my basic approach. If you guys like this video, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel or following my channel. Feel free to share the video to people if you think that they might enjoy it. I'll see you next week. Thanks.